Okay, go.
Are you currently recording? Here we go.
Yeah, countdown.
Welcome back to the history of rock. His name is
count
Brandon.
down. 3, 2.
3, 2. Welcome back to the history of rock. His name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He's the rock star. Class is in session. Are you ready to go? Are you ready? Because this is like the
I'm
big
ready
one.
to go. This is not the big one. Did you say this is the big one?
No.
This is like, why? Because we're going to spend the entire podcast taking a dump on Jane's Addiction because neither of us really like this band.
No, look. So as I was doing the research for this, I realized, like, I really do like Jane's Addiction. I like a lot of their songs. My hatred's a really strong word, but they were so bad live. So bad live. But we'll get into that. We've talked about it a little bit. But this is actually really the first episode of the history of rock where we're not covering grunge. I mean, they were alternative, but they sure weren't anything near grunge, man. Like, they were from Los Angeles, and like, the sound wasn't anything there, but they were highly influential.
Were they influential in the alternative space or in general?
I'd say at least the alternative space, if not in general as well, because they were really one of the first big alternative acts. You can also look at maybe like an REM or something like that, that was able to step out of the alternative mold and have mainstream success.
Yeah.
I mean, but when we get into this here, do you know how many albums Jane's Addiction has?
I looked it up on Spotify. It's like 8 or 10.
Studio albums? 4.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, that's why. Okay, cool.
They have a bunch of live albums and compilations, and in all honesty, it's really just the first 2, and that's what we're going to really be covering on these episodes of the History of Rock for Jane's Addiction.
Which is funny, because the second 2 albums that have really great production are definitely better albums.
Oh, see, I really,
like the first, dude.
I go back and I listen.
On.
I listened to, so it's Nothing Shocking and Ritual de la Habitual are the 2 first albums. That's what As Jane Says, Mountain Song, Been Caught Stealing, obviously their biggest hit of all. And for anybody who ever watched Entourage, yes, that is Jane's Addiction doing the intro theme song for Entourage. I want to be your superhero. That's Jane's Addiction. It's a catchy little ditty they get there.
That bought them houses, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that, and we're going to get into money disputes and all kinds of things with Jane's Addiction today. However, before we really get into this, I do want to mention that we do have the merchandise available. You can go to vivalamocha.com. As we have done in the previous episodes, we can check out here if you want my logo, my merch. So you got the real brand DeLorean right there. If you would like, we also have just a standard History of Rock stickers. And then we also have the Cross-Eyed Bear as well. And there's T-shirts with all of these. Jim loves the Cross-Eyed Bear.
I love it every time I see it.
And so, the more that we sell, the more merchandise we're going to be able to get. We've talked about doing a shirt or something. So basically, we're going to have shirts and stickers for almost anything I would imagine that we're doing. See, look, Shim got so fucking bored, he left already.
Oh, I just realized my guitar isn't ready.
Oh, okay. So looking into it, I think it's pretty much going to be, we'll try to do a sticker and a T-shirt version of any logos. We thought about doing one with like a Judge Doom, sort of a shave and a haircut. Not quite sure how we would pan that. I got to talk to Charlie, who's the brilliant artist behind all of these logos, by the way. But yeah, so we're going to be covering Jane's Addiction here for this episode and the next episode. And we've talked about Jane's Addiction in the past. Hasn't always been in the best light for Jane's Addiction.
It's so politically correct with your new lighting and your fancy camera angle. It's like don't say anything. By the way, shout out to Brandon
so first
for
of all,
looking amazing.
If you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Google, you're really missing out, because if you go to Spotify or even YouTube, you get the full visuals of what we're doing. Like, there's a reason that I'm, as I'm out shopping around, my mom spends an hour on the phone with me as I'm talking to her about the things that I'm purchasing for the background of my little home studio here. That right there, Ross Dress for Less for $30. This nice big that's a nice canvas.
Did you tell us?
That's a nice.
You could have said,
canvas.
But you could have said,
what?
This is a photograph by a very up and coming El Paso art. You could have made up anything. You could have been like, and I paid $1,000 for this, and it came with an NFT.
But see, that would be lying. And if I start lying about crap like that, then people aren't. Well, no, because then people will start to not believe the things I'm saying about guys like Charlie, who does these badass logos. So, you want to make sure that you're keeping everything true.
Gotta take care of Charlie.
$30. Ross dress for less, baby. All right. So anyway, it wasn't always in the best light when it came to Jane's Addiction. Shim, I think, was nicer about it earlier when he was talking about.
You know what? You know why I was nicer? Because I have less experience. That's why.
Have you never seen?
I've never seen him live. No, that's not true. No, I have seen him live. I saw Jane's Addiction live on tour. We played a festival. They were playing, and I was like, oh. And here's the funniest thing. I went to see Jane's Addiction because I'm a Dave Navarro fan, because I like the album One Hot Minute by Red Hot Chili Peppers, which was the album that Dave Navarro was on. That was when I was getting into music, and I was like, that's a great album. It's a very underrated album. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go see Dave Navarro play live. And then he's in Jane's Addiction. And I couldn't even make it through. And the funny thing is, I'm side of stage, like a few feet away from him. And he's looking like Dave Navarro, and he looks like some sort of male model, and he's all ripped and shredded and tatted, and and it's freezing. It is cold winter, and his shirt's off.
Don't forget the nipple rings.
No, and the nipple rings. And the nipple rings, it's weird because you look at, you notice them shaking. Like he's there because he's playing guitar. So yeah, he's getting booby tassels because you're playing guitar. So you're moving your shoulders and your elbows. So the nipple rings are just constantly bouncing. Even though you're not moving, they're just bouncing. It's like some sort of like visual mind fuck. And so I'm watching them, and all I can see is Dave Navarro standing there leaning back, far more concerned with how he looks than how he plays. And he still plays amazing. And there was some woman who was next to me on the side of stage that was draped in scarves and some oversized hat and some drapey flowy thing that probably cost $20,000, like whatever his model girlfriend was at the time. And it was so clearly Dave Navarro. And Dave Navarro is playing, and then the next person over is some guy going, ah, ah, ah. And it's fucking Perry Farrell just wailing uncontrollably into a microphone that he's like, I was going to make a circle jerk reference, but yeah.
And that was kind of my experience when I saw them, where I was, we were in New Orleans. It was Voodoo Festivals over Halloween. It was super cool. It had this like really cool vibe to it, being in New Orleans over Halloween. And Jane's Addiction was the headliner at one stage. Kiss was the headliner at another stage, where Kiss was actually playing after Jane's Addiction. I remember standing in ankle-deep mud, and it was the same thing where it's just Dave Navarro. He wasn't even playing a solo. It just felt like he would play a note and then hit like a whammy bar and then just
right.
And I'm like, fuck, I could do that. Like that's not talent. Like don't get me wrong. Like Navarro is an amazingly talented guitarist, but as I'm watching that, I'm like, I could do what he's doing, and then exactly what you just described Perry Farrell doing. He did that for about 15 goddamn minutes. Ankle deep mud. And I'm like, play Jane Says. Been caught stealing. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, I know your catalog's not the largest of all time, but you got to spend 15 minutes doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. It's no, here's the thing. And this is a dissertation that people should make. Just because you don't like part of a band doesn't mean you don't like a band.
Yeah.
Just because you don't like, and this is the thing that bugs me about, dude, I watched The Voice recently. So, and I was watching, and don't get me wrong, I don't choose to watch it. But I was watching the show because I was in my parents-in-law's house. They put it on. Cool. Watching it an hour. Not a single negative comment. Not a single negative comment. Every single comment was, this is amazing, and that was amazing too. And this was a thing that I didn't think was going to be amazing, but it was amazing also. And you look great while you're doing these amazing things. And I was like, fucking Jesus. So the fact that I want to make the discernation that if we say we don't like Jane's Addiction, doesn't mean I don't love Dave Navarro. He's one of my favorite guitar players. And I love the fact that he looks like a rock star when he plays. I also make a bit of fun of it. Same way people make fun of me for fucking singing with my tongue sticking out. Like anyway. And like fucking deal with it. So but like, just because you like Dave Navarro doesn't mean you have to like Jane's Addiction. So this is going to be a very interesting couple of podcasts about Jane's Addiction, because I love Dave Navarro as a guitar player, one of my top 5 ever, because he was one of the ones that I copied when I was learning, because One Hot Minute was one of my first albums. I didn't know he was in Jane's Addiction. And then I heard Jane's Addiction and I was like, damn, so you can be a great player in a shit band. Because Red Hot Chili Peppers smokes Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, see, for me, I listening to these 2 albums as I was prepping for this podcast. So we're really covering the first 2 here for Jane's Addiction, not the later albums. I mean, we'll mention them at the end, but the coverage of these couple of episodes are about Nothing Shocking. That was the first album. And then, of course, you have Ritual de lo Habitual, which was the second album that had Been Caught Stealing. I love some of the songs on there. Like, Jane Says, I freaking love that song. Like that, the way that they incorporated the steel drums, and we're going to get into that in the episodes as well. Mountain Song, I've got a funny story about that. But even Been Caught Stealing, I remember was a video that I would wait around on MTV to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, when I saw that, like, and a bunch of negative experiences with Perry Farrell. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, he's a dick. Like, he's just an asshole. And like, there was one time a friend of mine who was working in radio. They went to interview him, and he was like, "Oh, that's radio. Fuck those guys. Who needs them?" And I was like, "Oh, you're an asshole, sir." Well, I mean, he kind of admits it. Like, later on in this podcast, we're going to get to all of these things about the band. So we're just going to dive right in here, where we have the band's existence. They started in 1988. They went from 88 to 91, took a break, came back in like 1997. Then they came back from 2001 to 2004, and then now they've been around from kind of 2008 to present. And we're going to get into the whole issues of why they were breaking up. But I
think we know.
The current iteration of the band, it's Perry Farrell, obviously lead vocals, Dave Navarro on the guitar, Stephen Perkins on the drums. Those were all basically the original band members. There was a couple of guys that were swapped out, or like Navarro wasn't technically the first guitar player for Jane's Addiction. And the current bassist is Chris Chaney, but the one that we're going to be really talking about is going to be Eric Avery, going back to the beginning of Jane's Addiction. So the band, they were formed in actually 1985, and it was one of the first bands from the alternative rock movement to gain mainstream media attention and commercial success.
that as well
in commercial the United States. Well, yeah, and there's 2 major underlying themes of a lot of Jane's Addiction stuff. It's drugs and sex. Yeah. So they're the epitome of drugs, sex, and rock and roll, I guess.
But I was going to say, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, not too much rock and roll.
Wow.
There was technically a self-titled album that was released before Nothing Shocking. It was an eponymous. This is going to be the podcast where Shim can't say words. Eponymous album. What the fuck does that even mean?
It means it was
Tell me in a second. It's self-titled. Just say never mind. Including live tracks that were recorded at the Roxy Theater in LA, with additional overdubs recorded at the Edge Studio in LA, and audience applause from a Los Lobos concert was overlaid into the final mix. So that's not a live album.
Not really.
That's not live.
I mean, yeah,
not really. That's a crutch.
It was portrayed that way. It was produced kind of like that. So the band, they got their name from Farrell's housemate, Jane Bainter. And she's obviously going to come up a lot, hence Jane's Addiction. Jane Says. We're going to get to that as well. Who was the muse and inspiration? Farrell said that, quote, "My girlfriend and I were sitting in the car, and we started to think about band names. She threw in Jane's heroin experience. I thought it wasn't vague enough. If you want to invite people in, you don't put heroin on your door," which makes sense.
That's actually a good way to put it. You don't put heroin on your door. You will invite people, just the wrong ones.
Well, but then also, like, you know, that by having it more vague, I think if you go with Jane's heroin experience, that would be a bit of a turnoff for more of the mainstream stuff. Where if you just call it
Jane's Addiction is a nice
because you can be addicted to a lot of different things. Maybe she was addicted,
and
to
you
caffeine.
Can be a dick, just like Perry. Anyway, so but I hear 30-second fun fact about getting the wrong people coming to your door. When I first moved into my own place, I lived on a little place that was on a main road, a highway, right? So that's why I got it for cheap. And I decided that it would be cool to put a red light in my bedroom, because if I get up and I have to go to the kitchen or the bathroom, I'll turn the red light on and it won't wake me up. It was very utility based. Didn't realize at 18 years old that every taxi driver driving on the freeway was driving past a house with a red light out the front. So I had people coming and knocking on my door between midnight and 6 a.m, thinking I was running a brothel. Yeah.
This happened more than once. It didn't
occur to me. It didn't occur to me until a couple of months in, because they would come. It'd be like once a week, once every 2 weeks. A guy would knock on the door. It was always a cab driver, and he would knock on the door. I'd open it, like, what the hell? And he'd just look in and he'd go, "Oh, sorry," and walk away. Like, that was it, because he'd realized, no, this is not the place that I thought it was. But after a couple of months, I'm like, dude, I keep getting these cab drivers knocking on my door, like maybe someone's pranking me. And someone eventually clued in and was like, "Do you still have that red light out the front of in your room, like an idiot?" I said, "Yeah, it's really helping when I have to get up and go to the kitchen or the bathroom." I said, "Yeah, they think you're running a brothel." And immediately I went, that's exactly what it is. But I could have made bank. Anyway.
How did you never come, like, okay, so, maybe you did. Did you ever think of naming a band or even an album or a song called Red Light District?
No,
I mean, after that experience, that didn't click into
Yeah.
your head at all?
The red light mistake.
Ooh.
The red light fiasco. The red light mistake.
You could actually you could do an entire album.
Yeah.
That has red light in the title. It could be the Red Light Mistake. It could be Red Light Taxis.
Yeah. We did a tour with a band called the Red Light Kings. And they're a good band. And I remember thinking when we did a tour with them, I was like, oh, that reminds me of that time that I accidentally tried to start running a brothel.
Did you ask them about how they came up with their name?
No, I figured that it was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, well, you never know.
So anyway, going back to Jane's addiction, they became a sensation. Really? A sensation on the LA club scene.
Look, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true.
I didn't say it's not true. I said it's not justified. I didn't even say it's not justified. I'm insinuating that it's... Anyway,
yeah.
They became a... I'm sorry. I don't mean to be... Look, this is what you tune in for. If Dave's listening, I love you. If Perry's listening, stop listening. They became a sensation
if Perry's
on
listening,
the LA...
keep listening. You're dick.
They became a sensation in the LA club scene, primarily playing at Scream. What the fuck
Scream was the club.
And had interest from multiple labels. They ended up signing with Warner Brothers Records, but they insisted that their debut be released on independent label XXX Records. Their manager negotiated the largest advance up to that point with Warner Brothers, signing the band for between $250,000 and $300,000. $300,000 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That's like $2 million. Damn.
So you would say that that's worthy of a sensation then, right?
Shut up.
Just saying. See, look, and I can like I say, I like a poke fun at Perry Farrell and
you poke fun
because I can't talk right now. But in all honesty, like, I would legitimately like to sit down and talk to the guy, because he seems to be one of those people that would be a fascinating interview if he's not being a dick. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of get the same vibe from Maynard James Keenan. In given the right settings and having him able to open up about certain things would be a fascinating interview. But I've known people who have interviewed Maynard, and they're like, he was an asshole. It was yes or no answers all of the goddamn time. And it got to the point where there are people like, well, we're just not going to interview him anymore, which I think is kind of his end.
What he wants. Yeah, that's what he wants. Well, here's the thing. I think that, have you ever seen, for example, Maynard did an interview with Joe Rogan? Yeah. And that was but they didn't talk about music.
No, and there's people, it reminds me of, I don't even remember what it was for. I think it was for like a radio station's YouTube channel or something like that. And they had Billy Bob Thornton on there. And I don't even remember what his band name is, but it was his band was there to perform and do a quick interview. Quick interview, like 30 minutes, something like that. But they mentioned, hey, you'd know him from his acting, Sling Blade and things like that. It's Billy Bob Thornton. And he got so fucking bent out of shape that they brought up his acting career. And the hosts were like, well, wait a minute. Like, we need to present you as you. You're not just Billy Bob Thornton, the musician right now. You are always Billy Bob Thornton and the actor. If you didn't want to be known for the acting, don't fucking do it.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of stuck with me a little bit, because you hear...
Did they say that live on the air?
They didn't say the full part live, but they did say essentially, as they were nicer, where they were like they're trying to kind of keep tensions down so they could continue the interview. And they were saying, look, we're trying to present you as Billy Bob Thornton, and you, the actor, is a part of who you are.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was, I mean,
it's different. It's different than It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's
there was, it was about a few years ago. We were on the morning show. This audio hit the internet from a radio station. I think it was a sports station. So Mia Khalifa is this world famous porn star. And she was trying to transition from essentially, pardon the crudeness of this, taking dick to like talking about sports. Like she tried to make that transition. And I guess she was on this one sports radio show to talk about sports, but they introduced her as, porn star or adult actress or whatever it was. And she lost her shit and hung up in like the first 60 seconds. And it's like, look, you did that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how people know who the hell you are. Like you haven't made it onto sports reports yet. So
yeah, it's different if you're using your notoriety to get to the next platform, then you have to take what comes. Yeah. Otherwise, you quit, you start from the ground level and you rebuild. And then usually what happens is people will go, oh, I didn't know you were an actor, Billy Bob Thornton. No, I haven't done it for 5 years. I had to stop so that I could focus on this. Yeah, I did child acting for years as a kid.
Fried potatoes.
Yeah, I ain't no actor. No, they're gonna stop. They're gonna stop listening to us immediately.
I know.
So I paid for the band stuff being a child actor. When I got over to the States, did the band for years. Every once in a while, someone would go, that was a great show, man. You'd be a good actor. You ever thought about doing that? I'm like, yeah, I used to. I stopped so I could focus on the band. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. Or you do a Jared Leto and you go, I'm a movie star. Invite me into your studio because I've also got a band. Oh, cool. So here's Jared Leto from this movie, that movie, this movie. And you got a song. Yeah, thanks for having me in. Jared Leto was the opposite. He knew exactly what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah,
he would say, thanks for having me in.
Well, it helps that he's got a good band too. Like he's got a pretty goddamn good band to listen to. But anyway, so it was always weird for me when it came to interviews like that. It was just, whatever. We'll get back in here. So for
talking about rock stars who are dicks. That's what this podcast is going to be called.
Well, yeah, rock stars who are dicks and people who take dick and want to get into sports all of a sudden. Because I guarantee the only reason that sports station was even having her on is because of name notoriety. That's it.
I know.
So to get that bent, and also she's the one. I think she's the one that had her boob hit by a hockey puck, and it actually exploded her tit implant.
Oh. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen.
I think when this episode's over, hold on.
This is going to be
This is twice I've written tit down on my note sheet for today. Oh, no, nipples was the other one. Because I made a note of Dave Navarro's nipples.
Yeah.
Christ. All right.
We're on point 3. We're up to point 3 of Jane's addiction. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so here's when we start to really get the turmoil of the band here. So for Nothing Shocking, that was their first studio album. Farrell stated that he wanted 50% of the band's publishing royalties for writing the lyrics, plus a quarter of the remaining for writing music, giving him 62.5%. Does that sound odd to you?
Yeah,
or does this sound high?
No, it sounds odd. It's unfortunate that the reason that people think lead singers are dicks is because some lead singers do this. It's not uncommon. It's happened before that a singer will go, all right, I'll take the percentage for the lyrics because we've decided I only write the lyrics, and then you guys split the music. But it's or you be like, fucking, you put it all in, or you say, look, there's a million ways to split publishing, but it always turns into a problem if there's more than one person in the room that considers themselves to write. If 3 other people go, we don't write, we understand, take it, or we don't write, give us 20% to split up to be cool, or we don't write, how about you split it evenly so we can have a long career, because that's going to cause less animosity.
Well,
you can cut it up any way you want, but yes, that's not going to go down well.
Yeah, so he wanted 62.5%. It did cause animosity. The rest of the band was stunned by the demands. Producer Dave Jordan, who produced the album, he showed up at the studio one day to find Farrell, Navarro, and Perkins leaving. Farrell told him the band was breaking up and there would be no record. So, of course, Warner Brothers calls an emergency meeting to resolve the situation. In the end, Farrell got what he wanted, and Avery, the bassist, he said that event definitely caused an internal fracture within the band.
Yeah, that's on point with personality. Everything you hear about Farrell, and then you go, oh, he did this. Well, that makes sense based off everything else you heard. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, the math adds up in theory. The problem is you got all these variables. Did Perry Farrell ever go to the band and say, I feel like I'm writing all the lyrics and I should have this. Can you guys help me out with the lyrics? Why don't you get involved? And then the band could go.
From everything that I have researched is that, and we'll get into, like, there was one of the songs that I can't remember if it was Avery or Perkins refused to play on because Farrell was so demanding about how the songs needed to be put together. There's no way that he was like, hey, do you guys want to chime in on these lyrics? Like, there's no fucking way he would have done that. None.
Yeah, no, and that's my point. It's like, that's why you can understand why a guy would get led to 50% of the lyrics because I write all that, but I also am involved in the music. But do you play, or are you just a band member so you want the music as well? So it's not very holistic, and it's clear. It's like, well, hire some guys, man. Do that. Hire some guys. Write your songs, or hire someone to come and play guitar and then give them some cash and say, okay, I own that part now. Like, there's a million ways to cut it. There's a million ways to do it. It's just like, do you want to be Jane's Addiction or do you want to be the Perry Farrell band? And being in a band with a guy that's like, I want it to be the Perry Farrell band, sucks. It's not fun. So going back to the next note, shortly after this, shock horror, Farrell and Avery had a falling out. Avery was recently sober, but prior to his sobriety, Farrell believed Avery had drunkenly tried to pick up his girlfriend. So now this is great. This is everything wrong that can happen in a band. You start with ego of publishing and money. Then you go into ego with sex and all the bullshit that comes along with that. And then what's the last thing? Oh, well, no, music and money. You see, he's done it all at the beginning. Normally, this shit comes up incrementally throughout a band's career.
This is all before the first album.
Before the first
studio album was even released. So, sticking with nothing shocking, track 7, that's Mountain Song. That's the one that starts with the coming down the mountain, and then it goes into the guitars. So when I was in radio broadcasting school, there was a guy that I went to school with. His name was Eric Roberts. He was a cool dude, but he didn't grasp the technical aspect when it came to a lot of things. And I can't remember what his role was for the station, but he was on the staff. And we worked with one of the local ski lodges to do ski reports. And he had, I guess for years, he had always envisioned doing a ski report that starts with Jane's Addiction, coming down the mountain.
Right.
And then he finally got to do it. And the thing that really sucked for him was he really tried. His heart and soul were in it, but his technical skills just weren't there. And so towards the end of our second year, so it's an associate's degree, so you're only in school for 2 years. So towards the end of the second year, that's when you're polishing up your demo tapes, your on-air work, your production, and things like that to start sending out to radio stations. His would periodically get worse because he didn't know how to save the tracks properly. So he would put something together, and I remember he did this one. This was about around 2003. And the year before, I want to say, was when Limp Bizkit's Mission Impossible theme song came out.
Right.
And so you get the dun, 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 and he did this really cool thing where he was like doing it in stereo effect where it's like bouncing from speaker to speaker, and it sounded great.
Right.
But then the next time you heard it was a little bit off. And then the next time you heard it was even more off. And things just got worse as it went because he didn't know, and he would come out just frustrated. He's like, I just don't get it. And we would try to help him, but he just could not grasp how to save this stuff. And he was also one of those guys. Now, this is almost a little rock star 101 here for you, talking about the radio stuff. When you're producing a piece for radio, it can be anywhere from probably 5 seconds to 30 seconds. That's generally your timeline. And in that quick amount of time, you might have 15 different ideas. Do one. Start with one. And then if that works, you can branch out to 2. It starts to get cluttered. You go back to 1. You keep the 2, whatever it is. He would have 15 ideas and try to cram them all into one thing. And so at this point, I was the program director of the station. And so I told him this because he had brilliant ideas. Like he was a creative mind. But again, the technical aspect wasn't quite there.
Yeah,
So he ended up coming to me like for some help, like, hey, like what should I do here? And I told him, I'm like, this is a good idea, this is a good idea, and this is a good idea. They're all in one thing. So take that out and do one piece with just that idea. And then he fucking nailed it, and it sounded good. But then, of course, his technical aspect, not knowing how to save things, it all went downhill. Poor Eric Roberts. That guy was great. So anyway, so the first video for the song Mountain Song, it was done without the band even knowing about it. Like, the label kind of gave it to somebody, and they were like, hey, here's a bunch of archived existing performance footage. Put together a video. Band hated it. They were like, we don't know what you did here. You guys didn't even talk to us about this. So then they ended up doing a second video that was directed by Farrell.
Of course it was directed by Farrell. And was that video any good?
I don't know. I don't even watch that one. I was too busy getting sucked into some of the other things, like acoustic versions of Jane Says. Because, again, I really, really like Jane Says. The steel drums, everything. It's dope.
Right. Track 9, continuing on that thread, track 9 from Nothing Shocking is Jane Says. The Jane in the song is the same Jane as the band name. Speaking of the song, Farrell said, is it Farrell or Farrell? Let's say Farrell.
Perry Farrell.
Farrell.
You think it was Farrell?
Said that, for Williams said that she did do most of what is sung about in the songs. She was dating an abusive man named Sergio, who speaks like this, and that she did wear wigs, but he also said that she never sold her body for sex. At that time in the interview that he revealed this, he also said that Jane had been clean for 8 years and did eventually get to go to Spain. Is that a line from the song? Because I don't get that reference.
Yeah, it's so in the song she talks about how she's gonna bolt for Spain. Because remember the way the song's, Jane says I'm going with Sergio. He treats me like a rag doll. It's like, oh, so he's an abusive piece of shit. Yeah, that's actually. And like, have you seen my wig around? So yeah, she wore wigs. So this is where you need to write, because we're like 30 minutes into this podcast, and you haven't done a song yet. So you need to do a song about making it to Spain. Could you play the guitars to Jane Says, do you think? Like, do you know the song well enough? Because again, Shim hates Jane's Addiction. Fucking hates him. And he hates
man, I think I'll write another song. Yeah, let's stop it about some other thing. Yeah, man, more lyrics that you can't quite understand. And then obscure things about wigs in Spain and Jane, and oh my god, I'm sorry, that's the best. Like, what else? What else? That's what I fucking hear every time. As you were talking about, the lyric said this, the lyric said that. There's a thing about a thing in Spain and Jane, and I'm like, all I hear is, it's in Spain, it's Jane.
God, you really don't like Jane's Addiction. So I think it's not that you don't like Jane's Addiction. You don't like Perry Farrell.
Correct. This is the big discernatation that I was talking about earlier before.
Is that what we need to call this episode? It's the discernation?
Yeah, just because I don't like Perry Farrell, and here's the thing, I am a stickler for vocalists. I like to, come on, just sing the fucking song. You know what I mean? Just sing the song.
No, again, and that was my major issue with how he just stood on the mic for 15 minutes and fucking moaned nonstop. So anyway, we're gonna we're counting down here. We're getting to the end of this episode, but we got to keep powering through here. So the original recording of Jane Says, it actually featured bongos, and it was sung in a lower register. However, for Nothing Shocking, the version on the album, they replaced the bongos with steel drums. Now, I haven't done a deep dive yet. I'm pretty sure that somewhere out there they have an original version of Jane Says with the bongos. But I'm telling you, that steel song, I really like that. That song, especially when they go into it live, and then you got the steel drums playing and everything. I love it. When I saw it live, it was fucking terrible.
Well, look, they're one of the first bands that I can think of that put a steel drum in a song and made it popularized, and it worked in the song, and it was good. Like, I remember when I was listening to it. One of the first
bands that wasn't Bob Marley.
Yeah, or I think
a reggae band.
The Police. The Police did it in a few songs, and it worked well. And then that's about it. So that's a good tip of the hat to be able to pull that off. That's what she said. But despite the turmoil after Nothing Shocking, the band went back into the studio and recorded Ritual Leda Hawaii's Ritual. Navarro has said that he I lost my line. I lost the place. Navarro has said that he had almost no recollection of working on the album due to his addiction to heroin. Yep, that doesn't shock me at all. Is it the sort of record that you would want to remember? Because I know there are some records that I've made that I'd like to have just drunk my way through.
Well, it's kind of like, I think it's pronounced The Amalgamate. The Filter album that came out in 2002, I believe.
Yeah.
Like Richard Patrick has admitted, he's like, because that was right around the time that he ended up getting sober. Like, he has his sober date tattooed on his arm.
Right.
And, interviewing him, which, by the way, he's cool as fuck.
Right.
He has said, he's like, that's the album when I knew, because I don't remember recording it. He goes, I don't really know what was going on. He was just in such a drunken haze that entire time that he doesn't really remember it. And so then after that was when he got sober, hence the reason he has the tattoo on his arm of the date of when he became sober. But going back to James.
See, I can understand. I've got songs that I don't remember recording. I don't have a whole album. I think a whole album, like if you're drinking, you cannot remember songs. You got to be on heroin to skip a whole album.
Well, so the album is actually divided into two parts, speaking of Ritual de lo Habitual. The first being the first tracks 1 through 5. They're basically just hard rock songs, unrelated. Ends with track 5 being Been Caught Stealing. Tracks 6 through 9 are in memoriam of Farrell's deceased friend, maybe girlfriend I put in there because you kind of like... He definitely had one girlfriend, one main muse, who we're going to get to, I think, in the next episode. Because she pops up a lot. She was a major kind of driving force with Perry Farrell. But Ziola Blue was the name of the person who passed away. She died of a heroin overdose in 1987. I've seen it listed. She was 18, 19. I can't lock down what the age was of her, but that's what tracks 6 through 9 are for. And then we're going to end this episode now, because then when we're coming up into the next episodes, we're going to do not a full breakdown like with how we did with Alice in Chains, where it was like a song by song. We can get into it like specific songs here when it comes to Jane's Addiction's Ritual de lo Habitual. But on that note, I think we need to wrap up this song. Do you want to give us a quick little... Because we got to get 2 songs, and you only did 1.
Why do we got to get 2 songs? I'll do whatever.
Yeah,
like,
Dance Monkey.
Here's the thing. I
just need that little... What's that thing that dude would play?
Oh, yeah, see a video of both of us doing this.
God damn it! Yeah, it looks like we're eating.
What am I talking? Oh, see the thing. I can't do it on the last one because that's about a lovely girl passing away. I'm trying to think of Dave Navarro, anybody who's like fucking
organ grinder. Sing a song about organ grinders.
Organ grinder, can someone remind me of the next line? I'm pretty fucked up. Someone told me I haven't written enough songs for the record, 'cause I was too drunk. Now what line rhymes with drunk? Fuck. Give me a drink.
Spunk.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Thunk.
Dude, stop everything. I just had a great idea, and I'm not even kidding. This is a genuine idea. This is what we're gonna do. Everyone listening to the podcast right now, everyone especially watching on YouTube, write down what the last line should have been. Help us with the algorithm.
There you go.
Write in what would the last line of the song have been. Go ahead and put it in there. And then if we get a couple of good ones, maybe we'll read it out in a future podcast. Hit us up. Do better than me. Go for it.
If you listen to the podcast, Spotify, Apple, or Google, make sure that you guys head over to YouTube so you guys can get on to the comment section. You can skip right to this part of the podcast. Just make sure you go to my YouTube channel, not Chim's YouTube channel. Go to @TheRealBrandalorian, and then you can...
I just realized I'm not putting these on my... we got to figure that out.
No, I thought you guys were. I thought Don and Darlene were.
We are. Yeah, we are. Oh, that's why you... Anyway, so thank you very much for having... Well, we got to work that thing out. That's a whole behind-the-scenes thing. We're going to be back next week with the second half of Jane's Addiction, and I promise we will spend more time talking about Jane's Addiction.
Well, just wrap it up.
But in the meantime, his name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He's the rock star. Class dismissed. I don't know what I'm doing there.
Recording stopped.
Oh, look at that.
Does it say recording stopped on your end?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So the people who are tuning in for the encore, they're going to get to hear recording stopped. By the way,
are we doing an encore or are we going straight to the thing?
Well, this will be a short.
We got to do a little encore. We'll do a short encore.
We'll do a short encore because we're tight on time and we got to start banking episodes because I'm about to be on vacation coming up here.
Yeah.
In about a week or so.
But you're about to say funny thing what?
Well, I didn't know if I wanted to put it in the podcast or not. But Dave Navarro, I'm trying to think what his acting credits are because I know that he was in an episode of Sons of Anarchy and it was fucking terrible. Yeah. Like he, honest to God, it was like, oh my God, like why the fuck are you putting this guy in there? He is an attractive man though. I'll give him that. Like, holy crap.
No, this is the thing. He's supposed to be,
he's 54 years old.
He looks good for 54. He still looks the same. But he has been genetically engineered by God to be a rock star. He is everything a rock star should be. He plays guitar really well, and he doesn't do anything else. He plays guitar and writes songs and writes guitar parts, and that's good. And then he looks phenomenal, and he lives in Dave Navarro land. He lives in the land that Dave Navarro built.
Yeah.
He should. And so exiting that land doesn't work. Like if you see Dave Navarro flipping burgers in a McDonald's, it doesn't add up. If you see him packing groceries, if you see him, behind a computer editing videos or doing anything that's not fucking standing on a stage playing guitar and paying attention to how sexy you look, that's the only thing that Dave Navarro should do. He does it better than everyone else, so you do it.
I think that's one of the things. I think that's one of the things too. Why I wasn't a big fan of when they were live, and you summed it up in this episode. It was he seemed more concerned with how he looked.
Yeah,
it was like I gotta make sure that I'm showing off how ripped I am, and it's just me being jealous though. So I mean, you can kind of take that. No, fuck you want.
Here's the thing. I remember looking at him going, "Yeah, you look great, cool." But then I'm a guitar player, so I'm watching the guitar and I'm thinking, man, I want to see how he does a couple of these things that I've heard on the records.
You were mesmerized by his nipple rings.
Yeah, and then you'd look at the guitar and there'd be this shiny thing in the peripheral and you'd be like, nipple, guitar. Okay, how does he pedals? Nipple. Fuck. Wait, what pedal did he just hit? Nipple. Forget it.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Jesus fucking Christ.
All right, well, we got to record the second episode, so let's start that.
All right.
So this encore is now over. I'm just going to keep recording, too. I'm not even going to.
Cool.
So we'll count it down here. And 3, 2.
Oh, man, you know what? I'm going to take a 30-second piss break. Otherwise, I'll be holding it all episode. Sorry.
All right, so this is going to be extended in the encore. You guys are getting a little more encore here. So if you guys would like, you could check out our social medias. You can find me over on Instagram at TheRealBrandalorian. Same for my YouTube channel and same for my Facebook page. You guys can check all that stuff out. If you guys want to find Shim, Shim is how you find him, or at Shim Moore. I think his YouTube channel is actually at Shimon Moore. So if you guys want to check that out, you guys are more than welcome to do that. Oh, and I think I'm going to go back to doing my solo podcast, although it's not going to be a solo podcast because a couple of guys are going to be doing it with me. Because I've had people message me. I was doing that solo podcast after I was let go from the morning show. And there's that green fucking light, man. Jesus Christ. He went from red to green lights. Yeah, we're thinking about revitalizing that thing. I just got to figure out a format, how long we're going to do it, and all that other shit. See, now here Shim's back. So now the encore is over. Okay, bye, everybody.
Oh, fine. All right, you ready?
Oh, wait, hold on. And hold on. The encore's not over. So anybody who would want to find that podcast, you can find it inside the Misunderstood Imagination and Nonsensical Deliberations of Brandon Codes.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Hey, am I glitching and stopping on your end?
No, but that green light will flash up every now and then. You have a green light to go like that?
Yeah. I
mean, it's not distracting. I think it's kind of cool, actually. Yeah, Dave Navarro was in he was in 4 episodes of Sons of Anarchy.
Imagine him. Are you recording yet?
I haven't stopped. Here, let's
imagine Dave. No, but seriously.
Stop. We're going to start. We're going to start recording.
Okay.
3, 2.
Recording in progress.